Hi everyone, I'm Brittany and I run by Brittany Goldwyn, a channel where I share my DIY projects and plants. And today I'm sharing how I made this super long, super skinny, and functional console table for behind our basement sofa. So the first thing I did was take measurements. I measured the length of the sectional sofa and the height to determine how long I wanted the overall piece to be and how tall I wanted it to be. I wanted it to hit at that sweet spot that's tall enough to use for like cups or whatever, but not so high that if the cushion wasn't completely in place and you leaned back, that your head would kind of like bonk the edge of the console table, which happens upstairs with the credenza behind our sofa. So take measurements for your sofa to determine what length you want all of your pieces to be. Next, I used a pocket hole jig to drill pieces in all of the vertical support pieces. So the structure is one long horizontal piece that you saw in the opening, two vertical support pieces on each of the ends, so I guess technically the legs, and then two additional support pieces in the middle since the table itself is so long. And I constructed those by driving pocket holes up through the vertical support pieces into the bottom of the top horizontal support piece. Next, I measured and marked where I wanted the circle for the center charging port to go. This is something that is definitely optional, but is really nice to have since when you have your sofa up against the wall, it makes it hard to get to the outlets. So I could not find a protractor, so I made this little star thing here that I cut out as a circle to make a template for how large of a hole I needed to cut out with my jigsaw. And I made this using the measurements on the package of the little charging dongle that I got. So here it is in place and centered, and I drew the circle around it, and then I used my jigsaw to cut it out, which I was jigging and filming, so I only got footage here of me driving the initial hole down through the center of it, and then I cut it out with my jigsaw. And as you can see here, the cut is kind of rough with the jigsaw, but it's not a huge deal because this will be hidden by the power dongle. So as you can see, it fits flush in there, and I will wait to put this little support dongle thingy on the bottom until after I'm finished staining and finishing the overall piece. Next, I took my pieces outside to sand them down. I did choose to do this before constructing the piece, just because I thought it would be easier to carry all of the individual pieces upstairs to sand. I don't like sanding in our basement because the dust gets everywhere. So I sanded before I constructed all of the different pieces. Then I carried all the pieces back downstairs, and you can see how I started to assemble the pieces by adding the legs with the pocket screws onto the ends. This is how they are attached to the top piece. And then since I do have a kid, I added these additional support pieces to it because there is a really, really good chance that kids are going to be playing on the couch and sitting on this. So since it is so long, I wanted to make sure that it had additional supports. So I stained this piece using just honestly a mix of old wood stains that I had in the basement that I wanted to get rid of, just to try and get a nice dark to medium brown color on the piece to help warm up the basement. It's very sterile, very white, so I wanted a nice warmer wood tone on this piece for the basement. After I was done staining the piece, I carried it downstairs, which was a beast of a job, but we got it downstairs, and then I sealed it with 2 coats of polyurethane. I think I used a satin. I used whatever we had in the basement just to seal this, and with a special focus on the top here because I know there's going to be drinks on this and toys and all sorts of stuff, but I sealed the whole thing. Okay, so now it was time to put it in place to make sure that I had done everything correctly and that it fits, and I was super excited for this to be done. So I moved the couch out of the way here, and then I slid the piece into place. And I was super excited for this moment, and I got it into place and realized that I forgot to account for the baseboards and shoe molding. And since I had just spent hours, days really cutting and caulking and attaching and painting these baseboards and shoe molding, finishing the basement, I did not want to cut them out. So I decided to take a couple measurements and cut the space out of the bottom of the legs instead. This would allow the piece to sit flush up against the wall so I could anchor it in place, and I used my jigsaw to do this. And once I confirmed that everything fit as I wanted it to up against the wall, I got some L brackets that we had in the shop, and I found some studs on the wall and anchored this table into place. You can see I never trust the stud finder, so I always knock. And I found the studs and attached using the L brackets. And again, this is probably overkill, but the thing is, you can't really trust a group of 6-year-olds around furniture. And I always kind of like to go overkill on things that are going to be around my daughter and her friends. So in addition to the middle vertical support pieces here, since the piece is so long, I did want to add the L brackets so it didn't move around at all. And this thing is in place, rock solid, once I attach these. And then it was time for the most exciting part, putting in the power dongle. I love having this option because not only does it maximize our plugs, but it means that we don't have to get behind the couch to fish for this outlet here. So before I put the couch back into place, I fed this down, plugged it in on the outlet you see here, and then also plugged the lamp that's by the couch into this outlet. So we should never have to access this outlet unless something goes wrong with the dongle. The dongle itself is secured in place using this little thingy underneath of it. And then it has 2 plugs and a couple other charging ports that we can use. So I tested it out here. It works just fine. Yay, exciting. So I'm just messing with the plugs here to make sure our cord control is on point before I push the couch back into place. And here is the finished product. We love it. As you can see, my daughter loves it for lining up her little stuffies. I love it because it has a convenient charging port and power port, and it's got a place for things like tissues or drinks or whatever you've got downstairs when you are lounging here watching a movie. So that's my finished build of my long, skinny behind the sofa console table. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.